6 after the top of the hour. Attorney Malik Zula Shabazz, good morning again and welcome back to the program.
Good morning, Brother Carl Nelson, and thank you for inviting me on.
I see you've got some friends with you. Can you introduce them to the family?
Okay, I have friends. Good morning, sisters and brothers who are listening. Much of this discussion this morning will be on the subject of reparations for our people and how it fits into and how reparations ties into the 2024 election and other issues that you know me for on the station, such as police brutality. Okay, this morning I have on here, I have on the president of the Afro-descendant nation, which is founded and spearheaded by the Honorable Silas Muhammad. I believe I have on missing President Akila Mukaram. And I also believe I have either Brother Cam Howard from Reparations United. He's working on Federal Election Commission and former chairman of COBRA. I think I even have Cam Howard or Ramzu Yunus, the head of the Human Rights Policy Officers, or maybe both.
All right, Ramzu is with us, and also Dr. Akila is with us as well, Attorney Malik. So,
okay.
So explain to us what reparations is 7 after the top. What does reparations have to do with this coming election?
Well, it has to do with what election we should really be counting on. It has to do with the fact that there is another election outside of the presidential election. There's a national election and a national vote or plebiscite that is being conducted amongst our people about whether or not we want reparations, how reparations, and how we will establish self-determination. And so reparations is key. It's polling very high, polls very high in the black community amongst all religious sectors, class sectors. And we're here to give a strong update about the future of reparations and the real choices we have.
All right, 8 after the top of the hour. Let me go to Dr. Akila. Dr. Akila, your thoughts on reparations? Dr. Akila's on line 2. Hope he doesn't have his phone on mute.
Yes.
Yes,
sir. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, ma'am. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for having us on this morning. Greetings to everyone this early morning. Well, as the conductor said, reparations is important to us. We are descendants of slaves who this country has been built off of our ancestors' blood, their sweat, their tears, free labor. They totally destroyed us as a people. So now we are coming together as a people, as an Afro-descendant people, and we are demanding reparations as the Jewish people demanded reparations from their Holocaust. So we have had, in comparison to the Jewish Holocaust, we have had a mega Holocaust. And each of those were wrong. But we have been stripped of our language, our culture, and our religion. The Jewish people did not lose their language. We lost our language, and we were separated from our families. So reparations are due to us. We are worthy of reparations.
Right.
Thank you.
And let me just jump in and say, I don't think anybody will go up against that. Where everybody is in the black community, we know we're due reparations. Fact is, how we're going to achieve reparations. Ramzu, let me bring you in for a second here. As far as reparations is concerned, what type of reparations are we talking about? Have you guys fleshed that out yet?
Can you hear me?
Sure.
Okay. Well, So reparations, as a term, a lawful term in international law, is a little bit more than them just giving us a payment. It's like reparation. Repairing is putting us back in the state that we were in before the damage. We were in a state of power. We did have our own land and we had our own control. And we had our own money, so we didn't have to rely on our oppressor and conqueror and enslaver's monetary system. But you asked earlier so reparations to me, and reparation in law period, is to repair us, put us back in our condition of having our own power, our own land, our own government, and then we can give and compensation is part of it as well. But if we had enough power, then we didn't have to worry about their compensation. We could compensate ourselves. And reparations, what it has to do with the upcoming elections, as Comrade Attorney Malik Shabazz said, it has everything to do with this election year, because there's another election. And that's the Black Power election, the election for us to assert our right of self-determination and take control and ownership of our communities where we live. So then we will have all the access to all the resources and assets, because now we control that and we can leverage them and give ourselves a check if that's what we think reparations is. So instead of giving all our power, organizing everybody, rallying everybody to give our power to a system of power that has been oppressing us with their power, we can organize ourselves to participate in this other election and give ourselves the power. Then we can repair ourselves. That's the guaranteed way to reparations, is to simply assert our right of self-determination, hold our vote, which we are holding. If everybody participates in it, then we can own everywhere we live. Black people can actually own it and control it politically and control the assets thereof. So reparations will be guaranteed. So this upcoming election for their president, it's the same old. So that's not that important. But the real election that we're hosting for independence of Black people in America, that's the election that will guarantee reparations.
All right, and we got to take a short break. When we come back, Attorney Malik, I'll let you expound on that. This other election that you're talking about, I'm not sure if many of our listeners understand what you're saying. And we got some people already want to talk to you. 14 minutes after the top there. You want to join this conversation, family? Reach out to us at 800-450-7876. We'll take your phone calls in 4 minutes right here in Baltimore on 1010 WOLB. And also in the DMV, we're on FM 95.9 and AM 1450 WOL, where information is power. And good morning once again, family. 20 minutes after the top of the hour with the founder of the Black Lawyers for Justice, Attorney Malik Shabazz. He's brought some friends with him and discussing reparations, Dr. Akila, also Brother Ramzu. Before we left for the break, though, Attorney Shabazz, you were telling us about there's two elections. The one we know of, concerning reparations, one we know of in November, of course, but what's the other election concerning reparations? Is Attorney Malik there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah. So we do have choices. Now, I want to point out the irony in the current choice. I mean, now you have you have one leading candidate who smashed the Iowa caucus.
Your phone's going south on us, Counselor.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's much better.
Okay, we have a irony in choices right now. We have a multiple indicted on multiple felonies, Donald Trump, who has just smashed all of his competition in the Iowa caucuses, and he's polling ahead of Joe Biden. That's one choice in Black Americans. And then you have Joe Biden here, whose approval ratings are absolutely sinking every second, and he's complicit now in the outright bombing and genocide in Gaza. So to most people, that's a terrible set of choices that we're faced with. And then also we have what is building to be up to 200 organizations. There are 200 Black organizations that are for reparations that are conducting their own vote this year. It's going to be launched starting at the beginning of Black History Month. It's really going to get going. And that's the National Vote on Reparations and the National Registration on Reparations. And so the organizations that you hear on the line and others that will be coming on We're talking about the Afro-descendant nation, of which I'm an attorney and conductor with. We're talking about NCOBRA, human rights policy officers. We're talking about Black Lives Matter, a host of organizations. We're having our own vote. The number, because I'm going to give it out often during the show, the number is 1-800, pardon me. The number is it's 1-877-506-2184. 1-877-506-2184. And if you text reparations right to that number, reparations, REPARATIONS, like repair, reparations, you will get the ballot right to your phone. And if you're a black person in America, a descendant of slaves, or you are an indigenous, text that number, 877-506-2184. You get your ballot right now. And we are saying, as black people who have your best interest at heart on this line, Malik, Shabazz, and representatives from the black Muslims and reparations freedom fighters, that we do have a choice, and you'll get a ballot on your phone. And it's going to ask you 7 to 8 questions. It's going to ask you 7 ballot choices about, do you want reparations and do you want self-determination, and other critical questions that will not only help us to win this ballot, which is going to the international courts, it's going to multinational corporations. It's also going to get you registered with the key reparations organizations so that you will be updated on the reparations movement and that you'll be in line to get your reparations. So that's the ballot. And we're going to talk about why this ballot is so important and so forth. But we have to organize, and you are right, Carl Nelson. We have to move beyond just claiming our damages. We're saying that the reparations movement this year in 2024 is having a mass election, a plebiscite, a vote that is going to help us to mobilize 1 million black people, 1 million what they call lawfully Afro-descendants in this country to achieve our full and complete reparation. That's the vote we're talking about also, because these choices we have, as Khalid Muhammad said, Khalid Muhammad taught us, he said, these choices in the election are like choices between the devil, Lucifer, Satan, or Beelzebub. Whichever vote we cast, there's a high probability we will end up in hell. He also has taught us Democratic Party or Republican Party. Sorry to say this, but most of us aren't even invited to the party. And then that's our position this morning.
All right, 25 at the top there. I've got some folks who want to speak with you. Let's go to line 1. Tyrone's calling from Baltimore. Good morning, Tyrone. You're on with the panel. Tyrone there on line 1? I'm not hearing Tyrone. Okay. Kevin's checking, make sure Tyrone's here. I want to hang up on folks before we move on. All right, is he there, Kevin? All right, let's move on then. Let's go to line 4. Brother Uhuru's calling from D.C. Good morning, Brother Uhuru.
Yes, good morning, Brother Carl. Free the land, free the land, free the land. I'm just so happy to hear from the panel, and definitely I'm happy to hear from Brother Malik, Zulu, Shabazz, and I just wanted to echo 3 thoughts in one question. The one question is in reference to what you were alluding to about the Democrats and Republicans. So this is a definitely good opportunity for us to vote. I mean, we definitely don't want to vote for the devil because we got DeSantis endorsing the devil. So I'm just really crystal clear about knowing what we have to do as a people. And I understand about reparations, and I thank God for this other election, which will give us an opportunity to know about Unity Nation and about just working together. So when I was on the Carl Nelson show, I think last week, I was paraphrasing a key testament, Brother Malik, and the panel, and that is, what can we do to have the Kush district, such as the provisional government of the Republic of New Africa? We have 5 states: South Carolina, Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana. I mean, what can we do to have our own district? Because you're absolutely right. We need to work together. That's one of our biggest problems. Someone at my church was ambushed last week, 57 bullets, and this black-on-black crime has got to stop. So thank you for letting me put those points out there. And free the land, free the land, free the land.
All right. Thanks, Brother Uhuru. All right. Attorney Malik?
Just briefly here, can you hear me?
Sure.
Okay, yes. That's Brother Harold Hunter, Pastor Harold Hunter, who's working with us here in Washington, D.C. to help us to co-host the National Reparations Convention next weekend, the 7th.
Yeah, your phone's going in and out on us. If you can get closer to the phone, we'd appreciate it.
I'm back here. I'm sorry, the 17th. Can you hear me now?
Sure. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, the 17th through the 19th of May, Malcolm X's Earth Day weekend, the National Reparations Convention. It's coming to Washington, D.C. I think with Brother Harold, he asked a question about what the Honorable Dr. Imari Obadele and we know from around the world revolutionary movements call a provisional government. It means It means to have a leadership panel of black organizations and black leaders working together on our behalf. That's what is partially on this phone this morning, part of a provisional government for black people that is spreading now throughout America. It includes the Afro-descendant nation, as I say. It's sponsored by that longtime pioneer and elder, the Honorable Silas Muhammad. It has included, even at our conventions, certainly members of the Nation of Islam under the illustrious, honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. There is hope for black people, what we're saying. There's in COBRA and Black Lives Matter and black organizations are working together. Now, what we're doing...
Can I chime in?
Absolutely. Go right ahead.
Finish up, Comrade Malik.
Okay, what we're doing, and I'll let my panel here comment, is that we're taking action. I want to encourage everybody to be politically active. I'm not saying do not vote in this election. There is a presidential election that has very contradictory choices. However, if you live in the cities of America, black people we know are concerned about gentrification. They are highly concerned about police brutality. They're concerned about violence. They're concerned about health issues. And in many areas in the cities and the districts where we live, we must be politically active, either by engaging local elections or just being politically active in our communities. But what we are saying here is that our national vote that we're talking about here, our national vote, is about black people taking over and taking control, self-determination of our communities, our nations, and also fighting for reparations. So that number, before I turn it over, that number is 1-877-506-2184. 1-877-506-2184. And I want you to type in reparations. Reparations, like repair, REPARATIONS. Type reparations in and get your ballot and register with the fastest growing Black United Front and Government for Ourselves, and that's going on right here. Brother Ramsey.
Yeah, I was going to say, free the land also, Brother Uhuru, and everybody else listening. The answer lies in the mission statement, the creed of the Republic of North Africa. The answer lies in the mission statement of the Nation of Islam. The answer lies in the mission statement of many revolutionary organizations. The Republic of North Africa's creed says that we will hold a vote, that we're holding a vote in those 5 states. And once the people say yes, they vote for independence, then the Republic, as well as myself, belong to human rights policy officers, we pledge to use that power of the vote to declare our independence and stand on that. We can take total control, political control. Now, other organizations as part of this, they may want to use that power and do something else. They want to use that power and leverage to continue to participate in this oppressive system. That's what they may want to do. Some may want to use it to appeal to the UN, but we have a right to use it to the extreme, and the extreme of law says, and who doesn't want to be extreme when you're talking about law? You want to use the law to the extreme ability, and that extreme ability is what the Republic of New Africa pledged and committed to in that creed, and that is once the people say yes in the vote, we can literally take those 5 states, if they say yes as a majority in those 5 states, or wherever we say yes at. So that's what we as human rights, I'm not speaking for everybody else, other organizations on this in this coalition, but as human rights policy officers, we're going to use the vote if it's a majority, for instance, in Jackson, Mississippi. We're going to go in as officers and declare independence and take control over it. Now we control the assets thereof, just as the Republic of New Africa stated, just as what the intent of the founder of the Nation of Islam, Fard Muhammad, intended when he declared independence on July the 4th, 1930 in Detroit. So that's what we pledge to do, and that's what we can do with that vote. I'm not saying other organizations pledge to do that, but as human rights policy officers, if we see millions of votes in these cities, we're going to stand up and take control. Give us liberty or give us death. That's what our pledge is.
All right. Hold that thought right there, Brother Ramzu. We got to take a short break here. 26 minutes away from the top of the hour. Family got a panel led by Attorney Malik Shabazz, including Ramzu you just heard, and also Dr. Akila's with us talking about reparations. What are your thoughts about reparations? Reach out to us. 800-450-7876. Those are the magic numbers to get you in, and we'll take your phone calls in 4 minutes right here in Baltimore on 1010 WOLB. If you're in the DMV, we're on FM 95.9 and AM 1450 WOL, where information is power. About in November, of course, that's the presidential and the local elections, but also one that they're taking a vote, and you can reach them at 877-506-2184. That's 877-506-2184, and just type in the word reparations, and then you can fill out that form or answer the questions there. We've got some folks who got questions for you, panel, but before we do that, let me just remind folks, coming up the next few days, we're going to hear from University of Houston's Dr. Gerald Horn, holistic doctor out of Atlanta, Dr. Stephen Tates, an Afrocentric educator, Dr. Kemet Shockley. He used to teach at Howard. Now he's down at he's down where? The University of Houston as well. Dr. Kemet Shockley is. So if you're in Baltimore, make sure your radio's locked in tight on 1010 WOLB. If you're in the DMV, we're on FM 95.9 and AM 1450 WOL. All right, panel, we got some folks who want to talk to you. Taboo is calling from Washington, D.C. on line 1. Taboo, good morning. You're on with the panel.
Good morning, everyone. I've heard you mention several things about human rights and international court and the reparations movement. My question is there a particular entity that you are seeking reparations from in this movement or on this ballot? Because if so, I think it's important to help people who might not understand, if I am understanding correctly. And Brother Malik, you're an attorney, you might can help me here. Am I correct at saying human rights are not, and international rights are not enforceable in the United States, or am I wrong there?
Okay, yeah, and I would like Dr. Mukaram to assist me in this answer. And I don't know if Brother Cam Howard, the leader of Reparations United or former chairman of Encova, is on. But I do want to say that human rights are recognized in the United States. There are most all states have a human rights statute, and the United States, at least on paper, has pledged to respect human rights. In terms of our vote, in terms of our national reparations vote, our national plebiscite that is occurring right now, it's an ongoing vote amongst our people to declare and to demand reparations and to declare self-determination. It has multiple purposes. I want to support what my brother Ramzu said, that our vote for self-determination that we're conducting right now of a minimum of 1 million black people, or what's called Afro-descendants here, that our vote is it's designed to implement what we call self-determination, or what Brother Malcolm X called black nationalism, nation building, and taking control of our resources, our land, and our lives where we exist right now, including where we are in majority populations. I must echo that this vote itself, this plebiscite that we are conducting, is an act of self-determination, and it is a vehicle that is organizing up to 200 black organizations and all of us for our survival. This vote is a vehicle that's a great organizing tool in getting us to take power for ourselves right now. But also, these votes are leverage. I just want to say this: these votes are leverage. They are a demand backed by the power of our unity and by a lawful vote.
Right. Well, that's my question. My concern is, now, are we speaking of the control that you speak of? Are you speaking of economic control, political control, physical control? Because that is your target. I'm just trying, because there are different reparations movement. I've been around for a long time, and I'm trying to get clear where we are talking about now, and I think it will be helpful for the people who are listening, who might not be familiar with it.
On our ballot. I want to make something clear, ballot. Thank you so much. On our ballot, question number 1 states that, as asked you, do you demand full and complete reparations? Do you demand full and complete reparations? And question 2 asks the voter, do they declare self-determination and the power to control our own affairs? Okay, and that means economic, political, land, and every aspect of the lives we live on. Okay, so when we say full and complete reparations and self-determination, we mean complete power over our own affairs, down to the ballot, the questions on this ballot, which is land here in America or Africa, and ultimate control over our own affairs. Let me give out the number, then I'll let Afro-descendant nation President Mukaram help. This is 1-877.
I want to chime in on this one. Let's clear the air.
Okay, let me just drop this. Let me drop the vote number. Let me drop the vote number. Reparations 1-877-506-2184. Text reparations, REPARATIONS, to 1-877-506-2184 to vote in a national plebiscite. This is what the world has been waiting on us. And so I want to say, before my guests come back, is that my brother, this vote, and also is not only organizing ourselves by the millions throughout America, but it is also to be leveraged against the United States government, the Catholic Church, and all of its businesses that have profited from robbing us, from all of the companies and banks and corporations that are now under corporate disclosures, under pressure from the reparations movement. They're going to have to answer. And this vote is organizing us and registering us to answer.
Okay.
I chime in and say human rights are enforceable, brother. Human rights are enforceable. It's just the point of finding people with enough, I don't like to say courage, but I like to say with enough love to put themselves on the line to enforce that. I'm going to quote another lawyer, Henry J. Richardson, who is a professor of law. He says subordinated people can have this jurisprudence on which they act without a dominating people or group's permission. Even the United States and the UN signed a resolution called the Declaration on the Right and Responsibility of Individuals, Groups, and Organs of Society to Promote and Protect Universally Recognized Human Rights and Fundamental Freedoms. We have our own right and responsibility to enforce them. Whether people want to do it or not, that's something else. There's something when we're talking about the right of self-determination. Please look that up. It's in the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights that was ratified by the United States in 1992. Number one thing it protected was the right of self-determination, meaning we can enforce that It's a covenant. Covenant is a contract. Ratified means it became supreme law in the United States. Now, some people may not want to enforce that. Some people may want to use the vote as leverage. But as a human rights policy officer, I must speak up. We're using our vote that's hosted as power to enforce, not power to leverage, not power to appeal to the system, to the powers that be. We've been appealing. That makes us no different than anybody else by appealing to them. We talk about other organizations. I'll speak for human rights policy officers as part of this coalition. We're going to enforce it. Other organizations may want to use it to participate in this system. Some may want to use it to participate and go appeal to the UN and make demands, etc. We're talking about enforcing human rights law. So those who have enough, I don't like to say courage, but those who have enough love to stand up with us and enforce these human rights laws.
All right, we got it, Ramzu. We got it. Tabu, your final question or follow up, and then we got to move on.
Okay, yeah. Well, are you speaking of the systemic voting that you're speaking of, as you've mentioned the system, because there are guidelines within that. These are should we not be talking about constitutional rights if we're talking about voting in this system? Because that's where your power is. Our ancestors we fought for, and you have rights. You have constitutional rights that's enforceable by law here. Now, it is my understanding, I'm no lawyer, that international law is not enforceable here.
It is enforceable. Yes, it is. Look at your rights, brother. Look them up. They're enforceable. That's why Martin Luther King before he died.
All right, Tabu, we're going to let you go because we got some more folks want to join this conversation. But I thank you for your questions, and thank you, Brother Ramzu, for your response as well. 12 away from the top. As I mentioned,
rights, brother. Dr. King said that right before this system that you're getting ready to vote for. They killed him right after he said, "I'm moving from civil rights to human rights." Human rights.
As I mentioned, 12 away from the top of the hour. Ra's joined us on line 4. Good morning, Ra.
Good morning. Yes. My question is about the incarcerated population, but I'm definitely curious about the response that the brother was giving. How is human rights enforceable?
All right. Anyone on the panel want to? And Ra, thank you for your question.
Okay. Let me
we have a human right.
Hold on, Brother Ramzu.
Go ahead.
Ramzu, give me a minute. Let me try to guide it. First of all, I need to know is Ms. Mukaram still on, and it's Cam Howard from Reparations United.
No, Cam's not here, but Dr. Keeler is here.
All right, so we get right into it. Brother, human rights is a tough road in America. Let's be honest, because America is duplicitous or hypocritical on the subject of human rights. Right now, technically, I could say this as a lawyer representing Black Lawyers for Justice, that right now, according to American law, the rulings of the Supreme Court are the constitutional law of the land, and their constitutional rights are supposed to be analogous to human rights, which they are not. Okay, and so unless there's a force outside of America that is powerful enough to get America to respect human rights, such as in Gaza, which she has not. When it came time for America to stand up for human rights and to stand up against outright genocide against the Palestinians, she went to still silent at this moment, still vetoing United Nations resolutions at this moment, and so this is not an easy equation. But we, as Black peoples here in America, as what they call Afro descendants, indigenous people, Moors, we have an inherent power inside of America to bring about the establishment of human rights and self-determination by our own willpower here that we have exercised in the past, but we haven't exercised it fully. What we're saying here is that outside of an outside court, which we recognize, International Court of Justice, United Nations, we're talking about us here, that we have here 40 to 50 million of our people have power, and that we have the power, and we've exhibited throughout the ages, through Garvey, through Elijah, through Dr. King, through Nat Turner, and through other manifestations of our brilliance as a people. We have the power as 40 to 50 million of us unite to take complete control of our land, our economic rights, our political rights. We have the power to take control of our youth that we see running through on TV. At least they show running through shopping malls and things, stealing Gucci and whatnot. That we have a power and a demand that we are making through our election upon ourselves to declare self-determination. And at the same time, we are going to hold this government accountable in terms of human rights, and we are going to change the scope of what is enforceable for human rights in America. We have made history in the past here as a people, and we intend to make it now. And so that's why I'm constantly asking y'all who listening to cast your vote at 1-877-506-2184. To text reparations into that number and answer the questions. It's asking all the questions you answering about whether you want to exercise self-determination, what is your identity, your lawful identity. It's asking you whether to prioritize whether you want to remain a U.S. citizen, whether you want a separate territory here of your own, whether you want to immigrate to Africa. This is a vote about our national destiny, and it's also an organizing tool. We're registering everybody for their reparations and for this self-determination fight. Let me let Sister Mook.
Not you. Hold that thought right there, Counselor. We got to take a short break, and we come back. We'll definitely speak with Dr. Akila Mukaram when we get back. But we got to take another quick break here. We're 6 minutes away from the top of the hour. We're back in 4 minutes, family. You want to join this conversation with Attorney Malik Shabazz and his panel? Reach out to us at 800-450-7876. Your phone calls, as I mentioned, in 4 minutes right here in Baltimore on 1010 WOLB. If you're in the DMV, we're on FM 95.9 and AM 1450 WOL, where information is power.
There's no doubt in my mind. I want to reflect on something that our conductor, Attorney Malik, said. He said holding America accountable, this United States of America accountable. Not only are we going to hold them accountable, we're going to hold the United Nations accountable as well, because they're supposed to be spreading world peace and protecting everyone's human rights, humanity on the earth. And the United States of America has been able to just break laws that were written in the United Nations, which they are a part of, and that's not right. So if you're teaching or professing equity and equality for all people, you should be walking the talk and not just talking it. So yes, there's no doubt in my mind that we're going to receive reparations. The one thing that Black people have not realized is our collective power, doing it together. We're disjointed, and we let so many other factors come into play. We must have a laser focus on what we want. We want reparations and self-determination, and that's what we're doing in the Afro-descendant nation and those organizations who are with us now working collectively. We're making decisions collectively, and we want more organizations to come on with us and more people to come on with us, and for our people to accept their identity of Afro-descendant. We must have a collective identity. We can't go for reparations disjointed with all our different organizations that we're in. We can be in different organizations, the freedmen, so you're just a freedman, Afro-descendant. So you don't give up what you are, never give up what you are. You use that, and you use your collective identity of Afro descendants, that identifies us as a people. And I hope that the listening audience understands that as a collective people. Thank you so much for allowing me to speak.
All right, 4 after the top there. I got some more folks want to speak to you. Howard's on line 1. He's calling from L.A. Good morning, Howard.
Good morning. Good morning. I have a question. As usual, I'm just waking up and catch the end of the conversation. But you was talking about the United Nations. I want to know, could you explain the Security Council situation to me? And I just want to know, why is that when a vote comes up for Israel, the United States always veto it, and it's the law of the world, like? What's the deal behind that? I just don't understand how one nation can dictate the policies of the whole world like this. And also, could you explain the makeup of the Security Council? As I understand, the United States, China, and Russia, I think Great Britain or France might be on there, and every so often another nation will, like a rotating thing, like maybe next year Jamaica might be on. I remember one year Nigeria is on the Security Council. Could you explain that to me? Because I just want to know, what's usually have the United Nations if one nation can hold the whole world up? And
all right.
That's a good question. Thanks, Howard. Counselor, you want to tackle that one?
Let's tackle that right there. That's a very good question because it speaks to who runs the world, regardless of the label of the body called United Nations. Right now, this world that we're living in is ran by who has the strongest military power, and really it has been ran like that for the last 6,000 years, and specifically the United Nations Security Council with America, Russia, China, France, and Britain. These are controlled by the major players who had the most military power and political influence at the end of World War II. Okay, and so how it is, my brother, that the United States can just say veto if any nation on the Security Council can veto a vote, a vote to bring about a ceasefire in Gaza or any other vote, the United Nations can veto that vote, and they do veto that vote. And sadly, we live in a world where America will say that if I do veto that vote, what are you going to do about it? I mean, here's a nation here that protests vociferously and raises all kind of cane about war in Ukraine, and that the Russians are killing Ukrainians. But they sat right by there and watched the state of Israel just murder thousands, 25,000 Palestinians in the last 3 months, and they protected Israel. They coddled Israel. It's because they're the new imperial power in that area. And so they clearly showed their hypocrisy. And so what we don't want to do is, as we point out the hypocrisy in this, and the United States bombs Yemen, they flexing their muscles against Iran. I mean, clearly they could protect and cover in Israel. And the question is, who's going to stop them? And so if Russia has its sphere of influence and they're saying who's going to stop us, America is a much bigger imperial power historically, and they're saying we're going to protect Israel, and so right now it looks like a planet that says every man and woman for himself. Honestly, as much as I hate to say it on this broadcast, and we here in America, black people in America, what they call Afro descendants, we have a unique power here. We have a unique mission and a unique destiny right here. I can't tell you that America will do anything inside of America for us if she's now actually forced to do it by the will of our people. I can't tell you that she would do anything different. She has wiped out the Native Americans and the Indians to build this nation. She has completely either colonized, enslaved, or impressed us. Yet the light of hope the light of hope for us lies in the success here of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. It lies in the success here of the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey. Even bringing about in his latter days beyond civil rights, bringing human rights, not only here but to the planet. It comes from us, black people in America, Dr. King. And so I want to say, my brother, it's a tough world. We tell no lies and claim no easy victory. But right now, we got to focus on our struggle right here inside of America, and we must establish self-determination. We must establish our independence, and we must, like other nations have, to establish their empires. We must be willing to commit our lives and put our lives on the line and to give life. And I would even say beyond that, to establish our independence. I mean, bottom line to it, we're going to live like free men and women, or we have to be willing to die in the process to create a better road for our future. Okay. Right. And so that's why I'm here gathering, mobilizing in this movement for those purposes.
All right, hold that thought right there. 10 minutes after the top there. There's more folks who want to talk to you. Let's go to line 1. Ophelia's calling us from Raleigh. Ophelia, good morning. You're on with our panel.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for doing this and allowing me to ask my question. I think people may get a little confused, and that's what I'm looking for, clarification. I'm still hearing from so many people that we are asking for reparations. We're saying that America owes us this and that, and what we can get from them. Asserting your right of self-determination is no longer asking. Is that correct? And why are so many people still thinking that we need to ask them for anything?
All right, it's a good question. Thank you, Ophelia. Counsel, you want to respond?
The nature of a demand is to either demand or ask. That's part of what you do. We have demands. We must be clear that we have been robbed of our names, language, religion, culture, and our God. We have been robbed. And we have a moral obligation to demand back from the robber of what they have robbed us for. But we're talking about some serious resources here, land and money. Land, territory, resources. We're talking about that has been taken from Africa. Our people have been taken. And so, yes, it is right to demand, but the question is, how do you demand? Now, Minister Louis Farrakhan has taught me that our demand means nothing unless it's backed by the power of our unity. Yes, you're asking and you're begging if you are just have your hand out demanding. Now, black people in the 1960s were not just, some of them were asking, but many of them were taking power over our own affairs. So what we're saying here is whatever we're going to get, whatever you're going to get, whether you're asking from your or demanding from your enemy or from yourself, from the power that God gave you, you're still going to have to entangle with this system. And it's going to take a force. It's going to take a force. Like I'm in Mississippi. I'm often on this line talking about police brutality. I'm still in the middle of fighting to get the goon squad sentenced and to fight the whole Rankin County accountable. That's been over a year here on this broadcast. So you're talking about, when you talk about areas like Mississippi, Louisiana, Georgia, where there are strong black populations, you're talking about actively engaging a white supremacist system that is lawfully in power and armed to stay in power. This is no lightweight equation, and words won't change it. So I just say this, that we got a tough road ahead, and it does mean exercising full and complete self-determination, because we're going to need more than just the power of we're going to need the power of ourselves and our God.
And hold that thought right there, Counselor. We got to take a short break here. 14 after the top of the hour. And somebody tweeted this earlier for you, since you mentioned that you are in Jackson, Mississippi. The tweet says, are you aware of the 200 unmarked graves behind the police department in Jackson, Mississippi? If so, who's going to investigate? And I'll let you respond to that when we get back. As I mentioned, it's 14 after the top of the hour, discussing reparations, though, with our guest attorney Malik Shabazz, along with Dr. Akila Mukaram, and also Brother Ramzu is with us. You want to reach out to us, 800-450-7876. Your phone calls in 4 minutes right here in Baltimore on 1010 WOLB. If you're in the DMV, we're on FM 95.9 and AM 1450 WOL, where information is power. And good morning once again, family. 21 minutes after the top of the hour with our guest, attorney Malik Shabazz. Also, we have Dr. Akila Mukaram with us and Brother Ramzu discussing reparations. But as attorney Shabazz mentioned, he was in Mississippi. So this person tweeted this earlier, and the question I'll read again, and I'll let you respond because we still got a bunch of folks who want to talk to you. Are you aware of the 200 unmarked graves behind the police department in Jackson, Mississippi? If so, who is going to investigate? That was the tweet question.
Okay, I'm certainly aware of the unmarked graves in Jackson, Mississippi, and throughout Mississippi, as well as I'm aware of just the very either scandalous way that Mississippi handles the death of persons, primarily black persons. But this is shocking, and there's more shocking things we find out all the time. The Attorney Ben Crump, from what I saw, has called on the Justice Department to look into it, and I believe the Justice Department, under Civil Rights Head Kristen Clark, will look into it. I think the main thing that we're pointing out to when it comes to the continuing abuses and outrages amongst our people is that this is a systemic problem. And what we're saying to you as a leadership body today, that we recognize that our problem is systemic, and that while we have attorneys such as myself, or Attorney Crump, or activists that are fighting back against this systemic problem, at the same time we must organize and unite for a systemic solution. Okay? And so I'll let my other family comment on that, because we need real power in states like Mississippi, more than power to respond and call for investigations, or like myself, be tied up for a good cause in litigation. Right now, one power that I must say that everybody under my voice, that we know that we can exercise right now, and that's economic power. And that the economic power to sanction, the economic power to punish companies, corporations, states, and governments that are robbing us and that have robbed us and will rob us. Our power to collectively organize to place sanctions on them. That's a real power that we have, and that's one of the strongest powers that we have that we do not utilize, is the power of economic sanctions against those companies and corporations, states and entities that are robbing us.
All right, we got a bunch of folks got questions for you. Let's start with line 6. Brother Ajabu is calling from Naptown, Indianapolis. Brother Ajabu, good morning. You're on with the panel.
Brother Carl, I don't like that nap because we ain't sleeping. Not all of us. But I thank you so much for the opportunity to engage in this conversation. And actually, I had a couple of comments and then one question that I would love for Brother Malik to clear up, which he has done so eloquently in the past. A person asked what is human rights, and human rights are only acquired by force. History bears witness that no one's human rights is recognized if they're not willing to fight those who do not respect their right to be human. Secondly, when you don't control the decision of that which you desire, then you're asking. So we're asking the United Nations to respect the debt that we're owed from America because of our enslavement. And that's where I want to go with Brother Malik, who in the teaching that they had here recently, cleared that very eloquently, that when you talk about the language Afro-descendant, that's a legal definition that is being used in a legal arena at the United Nations, so that we are identified as a particular African that has gone through the Atlantic slave trade. And he's so eloquently, and I joined late, and you might have already done this, but my brother, if you could share that teaching with the audience so that they're clear, so that they're not confused about why we're using that language, not to define us as other than being Africans that all emanated from the African continent and dispersed the world, but as a legal definition to identify the specific history that we as a people have gone through here in America because of America, and that enslavement and the debt that we're owed because of that. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, Brother Jabu. Go ahead.
I think that if the question is, what is an Afro-descendant? An Afro-descendant is a descendant of Africa who has lost his human rights here in the Western Hemisphere. Human rights are the rights to life, liberty, freedom, the pursuit of happiness, the right to be free from slavery and torture and every other form of discrimination that we experience here in the Western Hemisphere as a result of either chattel enslavement or Jim Crow and everything that results from it. We've lost our human rights. As we said again here on this broadcast, we've not only lost rights, we've lost our complete identity. And so what we're saying is that regardless to how we culturally or politically identify ourselves, as a black man and a black woman, that's correct language. I'm an African, of course, that's correct language. Some say I'm an African American. Well, that's correct language. Others say I'm indigenous. I'm a Moor. Some say I'm Ados. I'm FBA. All of these, I'm freedman. They're all great titles. But lawfully, in terms of our pursuit for our human rights, has been recognized by United Nations organizations here in the Western Hemisphere and the courts around the world. It's Afro-descendant, which, and we specifically, Afro-descendants in America, is our lawful title and jurisdiction for legal purposes for asserting our demand for full and complete reparations. And so
I got a tweet question for you.
Where we are.
At 30 minutes after the top there, a tweet question from one of our brothers in Nigeria. How do we identify those fake people who would claim African heritage just so they could get paid, even though they know they have no African ancestors in their blood? Anybody want to tackle that one?
Well, I'll just say one, then I got to let others in on it. What I'll just say is our vote that I've been announcing here, our vote and our efforts, they specifically pertain to, in this vote, though we're in solidarity with black people's struggle in the entire Western Hemisphere and all over the planet. We certainly are locked in the internal struggle. But this specific vote and this specific effort for reparations here is the primary focus is for blacks here in America. Our voting procedures are geared and vetted, VETTED, vetted towards making sure that only persons here that fit two categories. They're either descendants of the transatlantic slave trade, or number two, that they are an indigenous person here in America, because we did come here before Columbus, that we are certified indigenous. In terms
well, let me jump in here, Counselor, because I think the implication is that with the AI and all the boats going around, how are you going to weed those folks out who will claim, create a character on the internet and claim that they deserve reparations? I think that's the implication of the question.
I don't think we want to. Ultimately, all of that will be vetted out through professional procedures. All of that will be vetted out. I don't think we want to tie up here on worrying about whether somebody that doesn't deserve reparations is going to defraud the system, or we got to get into a posture where we're looking angrily at our African sister or brother like they finna come in and get something from us. I don't think that's going to happen. Our African brothers and sisters are getting reparations in another form from the OAU and other forms. So I just say, don't worry about that. Right now, we're here focused and have professional procedures to make sure that that our vote, which is at 1-877-506-2184, 1-877-506-2184. Our votes are vetted because this specific vote is designed by our people here in America. Let me let Ramzu jump in. I haven't heard from him.
Ramzu, quickly, because we're coming up on a break. Go ahead.
Okay. Rights is something that we have, regardless of what people say. We have a responsibility to assert our rights. We don't have to ask for those rights. Of course, in international law, there's something called a responsibility to protect. If the government is the one violating, if other governments, including the UN, don't come to the rescue, then it's acknowledged, even at the UN, even by the United States, that those who are victims have a right to resist, just like the Palestinians have a right to resist and assert their right. All those organizations, all kinds of organizations all around the world, law organizations, human rights law organizations, lawyers, professors of law, all of them agree that the Palestinians still do have a right to resistance, even though the powers that be are denying them at the UN level. They have a right to resist. That's lawful. Just like us in America, we have a right to do what's necessary to assert our human rights, regardless if the United States is going to answer our grievances or not. We have a right to resist and assert our rights without asking.
All right, hold that thought right there. We got to take a quick break, as I mentioned. 800-450-7876. Those are the magic numbers. You want to speak to our panel. We'll take your calls in 4 minutes right here in Baltimore on 1010 WOLB. If you're in the DMV, we're on FM 95.9 and AM 1450 WOL, where information is power. And good morning, family, and thanks for rolling with us at 22 minutes away from the top here. I want to thank everyone who showed up for Baba Lumumba's birthday party. It took place over the weekend at the Thurgood Marshall Center in Washington, D.C. Baba Lumumba is one of our griots. He's on here frequently. He works out of the Moja House in the district. Before we go back to our panel, though, discussing reparations, let me remind you some of the folks who are going to be stopping by in the next few days, including University of Houston's Dr. Gerald Horn, holistic Dr. Stephen Tates out of Atlanta, and an Afrocentric educator, Dr. Kemet Sharkey. They're all going to be here. So if you're in Baltimore, make sure your radio's locked in tight on 1010 WOLB. If you're in the DMV, we're on FM 95.9 and AM 1450 WOL. Our guest, Attorney Malik Shabazz, along with Dr. Akila Mukaram and also Brother Ramzu, discussing reparations. And we got a bunch of folks still want to talk to you. Ra is incarcerated. Ra is incarcerated on line 4. Ra, your question for the panel again.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Sure.
Can you hear me? Hi. Can you hear me?
We said sure. Come on, let's go. Time is money here on the radio.
Yeah. My bad. As an innocent brother who was wrongfully accused and wrongfully convicted over 20 years ago, I would like to know how this panel plans to include brothers and sisters who are presently held POWs and mass incarcerated. How are we to take part in the vote? And also, how can the talented 10th stand up and act in the best interest of those who have been ignored for so long, if they've been complicit in ignoring the issues for the last 40, 50 years.
All right. Thanks, Ron.
Okay. That's an excellent question, my brother. And I want you to cast your ballot, because when you cast your ballot and you read that ballot, it talks about political prisoners. I think that's question number 4. It's or 5. It speaks to our political prisoners, and therefore, when you register here, when you cast your vote here, what it does is it connects you to the political prisoner movement, and that we do have political prisoners. That is part of the reason why, part of our argument that our human rights have been violated. And when you connect here with that vote, you're connecting to either the movement or the family members or the political supporters of the greats that are behind bars, Jamil Al-Amin, Mumia Abu-Jamal, and others. We absolutely support political prisoners. So again, it's 877-506-2184. And now you get the ballot by typing reparations and putting it in there. But I also want to say that if you text that number,
has the opportunity to be able to reach out like I do. Majority of the people, 95%, don't have that option. So how would they be able to tap in?
No, text. Everybody got that phone. Text
No,
that
he was saying
number.
they're incarcerated, Brother Malik. They're incarcerated, so they don't have that ability. Because I know we have some brothers
But we need to
out
know
on the
what
West
you
Coast
need
who
to
listen
do
to us who are incarcerated as well, and they listen to us every day, so I'm sure they would be concerned as well. But, Ra, thank you for your call. Counselor, your response to the brothers who are in captivity?
What we have to do is, if they just text that number outside of the vote, if they lock behind bars, what we need to do is we have the political prisoner networks and the lawyers. I can't say that we can solve every political prisoner problem, but we know who our political prisoners are, from the Black Liberation Army and from the Black Panther Party. And if you can, and to get down with our network, you can text that number also. We will answer the text, and we are absolutely in support of the political prisoner movement.
All right. 18 away from the top of the hour. Marvin's on line 1. Marvin's in B-More. Marvin, good morning. You're on with the panel.
How you doing, Carl?
Excellent, brother. Your question for the panel.
What I wanted to ask them is that when they do decide to give Black people reparations, what's the next step?
Well,
interesting. Thanks, Marvin.
That's a wonderful question, but you say when they do decide to give Black people reparations, what's the next step? Okay, let's assume that it's just all that easy, that they just give it to us, and what's the next step? I believe that it comes about as a process of struggle, and it is absolutely is going to be an all-out. It is an all-out struggle, and will be an all-out struggle, and therefore we will know what's next because we will be what's next. But let's just say hypothetically we got some of what's due to us. $10 trillion to $100 trillion in land and assets, and by that time, I do know that enough of our leadership at that stage will be at the table together, so we can decide collectively how to proceed forth as our people. But if we have reparations, brother, that means we have land. That means we would have land in America. It would be fertile, minerally rich, and fertile land that we would start producing off of. If we had reparations, that means we wouldn't be seeking grants for Howard University and other Black colleges. Then we would erect our own colleges. And so we would execute on what we have. We would be building what we call a nation of our own, an educational system of our own. So getting reparations, sir, means executing on the nation question, the building of a nation, the establishment of a defense force, a military and defense of our own, any number of things that go.
Well, let me jump for a second here, Counselor, because I think Marvin's question is that he thinks that there was just some workshops or something. So as soon as we get it, we don't turn it back and give whatever it is, whether it be land, education, cash, then turn it back and give it back to the oppressor. I think that's the implication in his question.
That's okay. Thank you. In short, that's not going to happen because the process of obtaining reparations is a collaborative process where black leaders and organizations from various perspectives are fighting for it right now. They're working through it right now. They're at the table right now, and so there is a broad collective body of leadership that will ultimately decide these decisions together at that point. Okay, so there's not going to be a vacuum where this just pops into our hands. It comes about as a result of collaborative struggle. And the decisions that are made are being made collaboratively, and they shall be made collaboratively, not only amongst the leaders, but by our people. That's why we're asking everybody to consent in this vote. Right now, in the vote, it's asking you many questions about your future and what you want your future to be. And so this is a collaborative process, and it's about gathering consent. That's why we're on this line pushing what's called the plebiscite, our national referendum or vote that we want you to text reparations. Text the word reparations to 877-506-2184 because it's asking you your questions and your preferences. This is the first plebiscite. There are more questions. We're getting your consent as to what you want so that we're not left in the dark.
All right. It's 13 away from the top of the hour. Shout out Marilyn Mosby. Go on trial this morning. We keep an eye on that trial for folks who understand what's going on in Baltimore with Marilyn Mosby. 800-450-7876. Tanya is calling from D.C. on line 4. Good morning, Tanya. Is Tanya there on line 4?
Yes, sir, I am. Grand Rising, everybody. And I want to thank the panel for this opportunity. So I've got a quick question. Isn't a right something we have and we assert without having to ask if we can enjoy that right? So quickly to that point, aren't self-determination and reparations rights? Like, why do we have to feel like we have to ask? Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Tanya.
Because right now, it's just a theory and it's on paper until it's carried into action. In theory, it's a right. But unless you have that right, when you say assert that right, that means if just say you want to assert the right to for the control over the police in your community. Well, if you live in Prince George's County, Maryland, right now the Prince George's County Police Department has X amount of thousands of officers that have an annual budget of force, some cops, some guns, and badges that control the Prince George's County. Or the state of Maryland has X amount of state troopers. So it's good in theory to say, yes, we have the right to assert the right. But do you have a police force, some cars, vehicle, a budget, and some money to take over the existing force you have right now? Other than that, that's just a theory that we have right. Okay, so what we're missing here is that we have the persons with rights that are standing up to organize and not only to enforce them rights, to raise the necessary budgets, the armies, and the forces to take these rights. And see, that's the missing question. This is not a theoretical exercise. This is going to take some millions of black people determined to engage in what we call nation building or taking back our rights right now in any number of ways. We have the right to exercise self-determination, right? We don't have to ask. We don't have to ask anybody to tell us that we got X amount of black youth running around all these cities in America that are either not productive or wreaking havoc on our own community. We can't ask anybody for that. But have we taken that right to take our natural born army that's out here in the streets, this young army in the street that's wreaking havoc on us? We have not. I'm talking about us, me, you, us here on the phone. We have not raised our army out of our youth. They are out of our control right now. There are many areas of self-determination that yesterday we should have taken control of, and we past due on that right now. We're past due on many of these items. That's why we're on this phone line.
All right, 10 away from the top of the hour. Erica's checking in on line 4, calling from Maryland. Good morning, Erica.
Good morning. Good morning. I'm glad that we are speaking of reparations again. And you may have answered my question, but my main concern is since Donald Trump was in the office and there were a lot of reparations talk amongst the white Republicans and the white Democrats and all, and the country know that we're getting economically stronger. They always want to take what we have. So with all these mixed folks, these mulattoes, I mean, I know they're the 1%, but how are we going to separate out the folks who are mixing with us so they can get some of that money or community buildings or community property, whatever, so they can take it right back to their white community?
All right. Thanks, Erica. Anybody want to
by organizing with us, by organizing with representatives that are conducting this plebiscite and this vote that I've been pitching on this line, by organizing with us and with these organizations that have your trust, some of the most trustworthy organizations here, we will make sure that you don't get used to nobody gets on.
Your phone's going south on us, Counselor. So, but we got to wrap up real soon. So I want to give Dr. Akila a chance to say something, and also Ramsu. So, Dr. Akila first, your thoughts. Dr. Akila there?
Yes. Okay. Can you hear me?
Sure.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I wanted to say, since we're wrapping up, that it is so important that we first identify ourselves legally as Afro descendants. That is a collective unity and a power that comes with that. Once we make it a household name, we have to make it a household name, just like we made reparations a household name. So that's the first thing.
Right.
The second is this plebiscite. It is so important that we do that and move us forward. And that's, again, a sign of our collective unity.
All right, cool. That'll work. Counselor Attorney Malik Shabazz, before we go, can you give out that number again?
Yes, I can. That's please text reparations to 1-877-506-2184. 877-506-2184. That immediately gets you the ballot, the vote, the plebiscite for reparations. It comes right to your phone, takes 2 minutes for you to fill out and submit your name and your email, and also you register with the reparations movement and get you right in line for this reparations and self-determination that is rapidly building throughout America.
All right. I want to thank you for you guys for staying on top of the reparations issue. Thank you for all of us. Thank you for sharing that information today. And folks who called in late, you got to call in early if you want to speak to our panel. Don't wait till the last minute. Family, we're done for the day. We got to run. Stay strong. Stay positive. Please stay healthy. We'll see you tomorrow morning, 6 o'clock, right here in Baltimore on 1010 WOLB. Also in the DMV, we're on FM 95.9 and AM 1450. WOL, where information is power.